Good afternoon, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm sorry. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Is there anyone with public comment that would like to make a comment? Public comment? No. Oh, check that one off. All right. We'd like to get approval of the September 2020 minutes.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, yahoo. All right. Status of funds available, TDC collections. Someone from the Office of Management and Budget? Doug? Great. If you'll tell us your name.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon. My name is Amber McClure. I'm the Chief Budget Officer for Escambia County. You should have received with your packet a packet that is updated from the August 26th packet previously shared with the TDC board. It is from the clerk of the Circuit Court's office. As you know, they serve as the comptroller for the Escambia County. The front of the packet looks like this. Perfect for the audience. So I just want to point out, I'm not going to regurgitate the information in front of you, but just a few things to point out. The fund balance as of November 19th, which is when this packet was prepared, was $5.1 million. That is on this first page of the report towards the bottom. Versus fiscal year end of 2020, we were at 5.8. One item to note is we did end up reducing, as you well know, the Visit Pensacola advance by about $500,000. So that is part of the reason that we have a little higher cash balance and a little higher fund balance than previous years. Next page, I want to point out the revenue trends. You'll notice for October of 2021, we have hit a record high in collections. The November numbers preliminarily are at $935,000. So that is yet another record. You'll notice the swing though. From September, we were down 25% over prior year. October, we're 19% higher than prior year. So we had nearly a 45% swing. And then we are still about 9% higher is where November is appearing to land. That we believe is because of Hurricane Sally. So we don't want to be too excited about it, but we're monitoring those trends. And then your next page is a
Amber,
detail.
quick question.
Yes, sir. Here you are.
When do the remitters have until, is it the 20th that they have to remit
That is
those?
correct.
Okay.
I'm looking.
So then we'll know after the 20th what
That's
that
correct.
November collection was. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The next report is just a detailed depiction of the cash reconciliation. Again, a little more detailed than that summary page. And then the last page is your adopted budget for the year, just as presented previously. Do you have any questions? The last page of the table is prepared. So you have a lot of detailed backup to go with this document. These are the audit ledgers of everything that was used to compile this, these 4 pages of data. But this is the information that we felt might be most useful to you. If you'd like to see something different or more, by all means, please let us know. We'll be happy to prepare that for you.
This is a budget that the county commission has already approved
Yes, sir.
without any impact from us.
That I can't speak to, but
Jim, I think it was based a little bit on what we had talked about. So we did the 60% to the unified budget. And so I believe the outside agencies all come from the 4%, which the board does not have control over,
Well,
or does not require.
Don't get me wrong. My feelings are not hurt. All I'm saying is Naval Aviation Museum, 100,000 that's closed. You know, those are some things that I think we ought to at least have the ability to talk about. That's all.
And yeah. And I know that at least there was discussions that were had at the board meeting. And we can have those discussions, and I'm happy to relay them to the board.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer or find out the answer for you.
So how long have you been here, Amber?
Just over 90 days, sir.
Well, we're recommending you for a raise.
I can second that.
Well, I appreciate this. Now I got to figure out how to fund it, huh? No.
All right, are there any other questions today, Amber?
I would like to say in the future, maybe when you have a budget like this, if you could show us what last year's was, and then.
Sure.
So that we can kind of see what we had last year versus this year.
Yes, and you do have the detail, it's detailed. But yes, to summarize it, we can certainly prepare that for you. I just want you to know you have the detail there, it's just not as easy to read.
Okay.
So, but we'll work on that for next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank
much.
you.
If we can get an update from Wesley Hall, Assistant County Administrator. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Wesley Hall. I'm the Assistant County Administrator. Prior to being the Assistant County Administrator, I was the Interim County Administrator for Gaston County. I was also the Director of Revenue for the City of Tallahassee. And I also wore an entrepreneur hat like you guys do. I'm the former owner of several McDonald's restaurants. So I understand the battles that you guys face on a day-to-day basis, making payroll and all the other laundry list of things that come with owning a business. I'll be serving in a liaison capacity with the Bay Center. And for details about the Bay Center and what's going on in the future, I'm going to bring up Mr. Michael Capps to give you all an update. Mr. Capps, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi there, good afternoon. Michael Capps, Assistant General Manager at the Bay Center with ASM Global. I'm here in absence of Cindy. She's out this week. We've been working a lot with a lot of community partners with Sunbelt Conference. That's been a topic of conversation a lot lately. The video boards have been installed. So we've got a great new asset that's in there. The company that put it in is the same company that put in the LA Rams stadium at SoFi Stadium. The Las Vegas, it's hard to say that, but the Las Vegas Raiders, their video boards as well. So it's a really cool project. We're finishing up the locker room renovations to help give a Division I experience for those athletes coming in. We'll get that done before hockey camp starts December 18th. We still are on schedule to have our first hockey game December 30th. 50% capacity with social distancing. We're putting in every measure that we can to still continue to try to host events safely. We did have Pensacola State graduation that was scheduled for December 12th, canceled yesterday afternoon. It's just in an abundance of caution from Dr. Meadows, but they're still planning to go forward in in May. We've got 5 games scheduled in January. We've got Mardi Gras, depending on what's going to happen there. Toby Mac is a concert that's coming up in February. It's on sale now and selling pretty well. We're doing that with socially distanced pods, so if you have 2 seats or 3 seats, everybody's separated out. We're controlling our entrances. We've rolled out a Venue Shield program for all the ASM Global buildings worldwide that addresses COVID concerns. So we're doing everything that we can to still try to host events. We are seeing trends in the industry with concerts moving towards fall of 21. Even some of the reschedules that we were looking at for the spring of 21 are now looking at the fall. Some good news came out that Cirque du Soleil is now coming back. They had recently gone through some changes and look at closing, did a lot of layoffs, but they've made some efforts to start coming back and ramping up their operations. We've had a history of bringing them into the market, so I think we have some holds that we're looking for next year, 21 as well. Our Monster Jams, our Disney on Ice, all those, they're still looking to move forward. We had a professional bull riding event that was scheduled. Hurricane Sally had an effect on that, so we've rescheduled that to March of next year. If you have any other questions, I'm here to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions of Michael or Mr. Wesley Hall regarding the county business? All right, Michael, thank you very much.
I do have a question.
Oh, okay.
You said the video boards have been installed inside the Bay Center?
Yes.
Is that, can you kind of explain, is that the deal that the county commission had with you guys to install that because of the SEC tournament or something like that? Or?
Yeah, it was primarily because of the Sun Belt Conference coming in. That was one of their requirements through the RFP that they put out as consideration for the site that they were going to choose. That in connection with the locker rooms, internet upgrade service, Wi-Fi, those kinds of things. So it is a 4-panel center hung scoreboard, and we did add 2 corner boards that are full video as well, but they can also operate for scoring. And then we have 2 scoreboards that are static that will operate for our youth hockey or adult hockey and the tournaments of that like.
Was that the only 2 things that they needed, was the boards and the locker room?
Locker room and then internet service. Those were the 3 primary components that they really needed to really update the venue to a Division I status, because they're hosting both their men's and women's championships, all teams for the first time. They've been hosting them on campus and then doing their championships at a neutral site. So this is kind of centrally located in their footprint of all their member schools. And they wanted to be able to provide at least what they get at their university or better. And with these projects, we were able to elevate that, and I think they want to be here long term. I mean, they're at least 5 to 7 years right now as it is.
Right now, we've got a 1-year contract, but I've been told that it's planning for 5. Have they signed a 5-year contract?
I believe we have a letter of agreement for 5 years.
Okay.
And then with the additional 2-year option. As far as where the 1-year agreement comes into place, that is just the user agreement for well, at least the Bay Center.
Sure.
And then they have a separate thing with Pensacola State as the secondary site.
Okay. And the other great thing about this piece of business, it's not just basketball. They have volleyball tournaments and some other tournaments as well that Pensacola is a great fit for.
Okay.
So,
Absolutely. And then the video boards are going to come in great with graduations. And some of the other events. We had the Mardi Gras balls. We took them in and said, we didn't show them everything, but we said this is what we can do with some things. So when we do conferences and dinners and specialty functions of that, like the center hung can be lowered down in to be utilized as an asset as well.
All right, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
any additional?
Thank you. Well, it's not for you, I'm sorry, but it is regarding county business. So a question I guess I have is, based on last year's collections being under $10 million, the statute says that there are certain things, expenditures that the county can use and cannot use the money for if they don't meet that $10 million. And I don't know how that affects the relationship with the Bay County, the Bay Center, or infrastructure, and other purchases. If Ms. Gilly would address that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the clerk's office or even Amber could also address it. So yeah, we're aware of that statute, and there are 2 projects that we consider capital projects that we're considering to be completed this year. One of them is the bridge rehab over at the Bob Sykes Bridge, and the other one is the beach access number 4. So those are the 2 capital projects that would fall into this year's budget.
Okay.
That, they're just completions of existing projects.
They were-
And I honestly am not quite sure about the answer to the Civic Center piece, because we've been working on, that for such a long time. I've not even thought of the Civic Center as a separate capital project, so.
So I think we're going to, just to make sure that we're complying with statutes, we need to find out how that's addressed, if it's been a previous commitment of, previous year funding or things like that. I think that's not, it's different than if it's this year's funding and we're not allowed to spend that money on those capital improvements.
Yeah, what you're saying is if that milestone is not met, is that what you're?
Yes,
Yeah.
if the $10 million milestone collections is not met, then.
This year.
Last year's collection, what we can and cannot spend in this current fiscal year.
Yeah, but are you specifically asking for the Civic Center?
Well, no, I was saying the
Any-
Civic Center and others.
Yeah. So
Like
the 2 that we've
Last year, I think
identified-
we bought a bunch of those I can't remember what you call them, the buggies on the beach.
Yeah, the gators.
The gators,
Yeah.
thank you. And, as long,
I thought you hunted, man. You know what a gator is.
we don't call them that.
Oh,
But those, all those type of, capital expenditures that I think the statute says has to be at least a 5-year lifetime, et cetera. But if you don't meet that $10 million threshold in collections, then you can't make any of those. So I didn't know if that does affect the Bay Center as one, but are there other expenditures planned under the county or county's projects that would be included in that
okay.
also?
If Amber has anything to add, all I would say is the only 2 projects that we identified from last year that are continuation projects are the 2 that I've mentioned.
And David, I would say I wouldn't consider the Bay Center as that, based on what was already been passed by the people, and we were already giving, $200,000 a year for improvements before we hit the $10 million mark. And so, because last year, the year before last, the fiscal year 19 was the first year we'd hit the 10 million mark. And so I think anything we were spending money on prior to that would still be eligible for this year.
Mr. Reeves?
Janice,
Or did you have something?
in the budget that was adopted, there is 1 to 3 cents, Bob Sykes Bridge, $375,000. Where is that precisely coming from? And my intent with that is, when were the bonds paid off for the Civic Center?
Yep.
And the county commission said, we're going to not touch a penny of that. So my concern is that 375 coming from the money that was supposed to be set aside that nobody was going to touch?
No, not.
We don't have that this year.
I'm sorry?
We don't have that this year.
You don't have what this year?
That 1.3 set aside, as far as I remember. I'll look at the budget here, but we,
That was the set aside.
it was last year, we did have the set aside. We did use some of those monies out of that.
Set aside.
Huh?
Out of the set aside.
Out of the set aside, and we were going to replenish that as we were anticipating exceeding our revenue projections for the year. Of course, that didn't happen, and so that 1.3 was never set aside. It was, some of the money was used last year, as we see some of it's being used this year. But that was, and then the remaining difference was what essentially the county gave back to the budget to help budget it,
So what you're saying is the commitment to set that money aside and not spend it on anything else really never happened?
Correct.
So where's this 375 coming from?
Yes, it's from the 1st through 3rd cent.
I'm still in favor of your raise, Amber. But I can't hear you with the mask on.
It's from the 1st through 3rd cent. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Well,
From the TDT?
in the
through
first 3 cents, we're supposed to have $1.3 million that we said we're not going to touch. So I'm trying to figure out,
So,
That- yeah.
I would say that would, yeah, we agree with you. We would love to have more than that to put into reserves, to be quite
I'm in
frank.
favor of you,
Right.
a raise, but I can't hear you either.
We would love to have more than that to put in a reserve, because I think this year is a good example of why you need to have reserves. And that's what I think part of the original
Okay,
intent
well,
was of the 1.3.
let me make it simple. The 1.3 million that we were going to pay on the bonds, where did it disappear to?
Hey, I'll let her tell you CPA.
We had a loss of revenue of $2 million. So that put us in the hole, $2 million. We had to figure out how to cover that shortage. And so we had to sacrifice some of our plans because of the revenue dropping off from COVID.
Now, who was in the hole 2 million?
the TDT revenue collections. So, and that can be seen from the third page of that document.
That was what we spent that long meeting going over, trying to figure out how we were going to get a balanced budget for the remainder of the year. And so the county, essentially gave back their statutory holdback. We gave back the remainder of the 1.3 that we didn't replenish from these projects that we used it on. And also the money that we had been hoping to set aside as reserves, there was never a journal entry there, so we essentially gave that back as well, and that was what we used to help.
So the 1.3 that we would have paid on the bonds for the previous fiscal year has gone south.
Yes, the bonds have been retired, is my understanding. And so that's where the money, that's what generated the revenue last year. So the bonds have been retired.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
But what about the 1.3 that we would be paying this year?
It dissipated. We did not put it in this year's budget.
It got absorbed into the budget.
Yeah, we did not put
Right.
it in this year's budget.
So what we did was I might be a little off here, but, I mean, Darren, you guys have about the same amount that you had last year, right? The 6 million?
The 6 million is about 13% less than where we ended up as
Okay. And so, but what we said though was that these BCC outside agencies, those would typically come out of that portion that we'd given Visit. And so we took those out of, we did not subsequently take that out of the Visit portion. So when we said Visit the unified budget got 60%, all 60% is going to the unified budget as opposed to 60% minus this, in this case, $430,000. So the BCC is eating a lot of the loss this year.
But still, 1.3 million, none of that is saved.
It is
Just
not.
all gone. So when they said we're going to save that, just,
We gave it back to we essentially gave it back to this board as a way to help budget the balance of the budget. Minus the expenditures that we had for the mowing and the Bob Sykes Bridge, which are also in this budget.
The 1.3 was an expenditure budget based on projected revenues of around 12 million, but we brought in less than 10. So that means, I'm going to take it, bear with me, to a very elementary level, but at home, if we bring in $12, we can't spend 15, so we only brought in $10, we can't spend 12. We gave up the 1.3 because we had to figure out a way to fund the
okay,
cash.
I'm going to limit your raise to
Okay.
the revenue you can get.
$2.
Let me ask a question, Madam Chair. When did we know that?
It's a good question. When did we know when COVID was going to stop?
No, when did we know that the 1.3 was going to be absorbed?
Oh, when we worked it out, I mean, that was July? June, July?
Was that it?
Yeah. I mean, that was when we had this, I mean, some of you
Yeah,
zoomed in.
I'm trying to remember.
But this was, I mean, that was what we worked out when we had I mean, I don't know the exact month, but it was a few meetings ago.
Okay.
And that was before Pam even came out and presented everything. It was,
Because
it
if I
was
recall-
us sitting here trying to figure out how we were going to have a budget for Visit for the rest of the year and what they had to work with.
Yeah, if I recall, it was, so last meeting Pam was here, and then the meeting before that was the long bridge discussion
Yeah,
meeting.
it may have even been the one before that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
So just to clarify, if we were talking about putting that one, after we exhausted the bond, talking about putting the $1.3 million into reserves, then what really got cut last year was the reserves, because we spent it.
Yes.
So we didn't put anything into reserves, we spent and so then this year, we didn't put anything into reserves.
Correct.
We're spending it again.
But
Correct.
I also want to.
And I would also say too, though, that the way that has been accounted for, I think as you all have seen, we're trying really hard to provide you better, understandable accounting, because the accounting that the county has used for many years pardon me, isn't as easy to understand as it probably should be. And so that's one of the things that Amber's working on really hard, because it should have said reserves, and it didn't necessarily demonstrate reserves. It was kind of like a set aside.
But I also want to clarify, we had 525 that was technically labeled reserves on top of the 1.3. So the 1.3 was, the board had asked for the 1.3 to be set aside, knowing that we had an unsolicited offer to do a replacement. We knew that there was probably going to be some cost incurred for either renovation or rebuild or something along those lines, that we wanted to go ahead and at least start a fund, much like we had discussed earlier in the year regarding the 5th cent, is that you start building it up, and then that way you have something to use when the time comes. So we had initially asked for that 1.3 to be set aside as a future use towards the Bay Center that wasn't to be touched. We went in front of our board, we came in front of this board and said, we have this, the Perdido Key access, and we have the Bob Sykes Bridge that has come in over, and we would like to use some of that money. We ended up pulling those projects from the 1.3, thinking that when we had the reallocation or something like that with the additional funds that we were going to collect, we would replenish the 1.3 and then also share that with the unified budget. So then once we saw that we weren't going to hit those numbers, what had already been allocated and set aside was held, and then the remainder was just taken off the budget, like it didn't exist. And then in addition to that, the 525 that we had initially budgeted to set as reserves were also taken out of the budget, because, as the Madam Administrator said, there was never any budget, there was never any journal entry or anything actually moving money over. So we didn't have it, to set aside.
Let me ask you this, Robert. That takes care of $1.3 million for the year that we were going to set it aside. What's taking care of the $1.3 million for the current year?
I would say we have, it looks like we've probably added this reserves / projects at $746,000, based on what I'm looking at on this.
Now, are you on
I'm on
the adopted budget?
I am on the adopted budget, yes. So that looks like that would probably be a combination of the 1.3 and the 525 that we had set aside last year.
746.
Yes, sir.
Leaves us about another 700,000.
Well, again, that was all based off of a over $12 million budget last year, so.
So what you're saying is we ain't gonna collect 1.3 million?
That's what I'm saying is that we have, we're not setting aside that 1.3 this year so that we can give, $6 million to the unified budget, to some of these other things that are on this budget.
Good question.
Once, I think the hope is once we get to that higher, get back to where we were.
So if we had a normal pre-2019 year, just a normal year, we would still have the 1.3.
Yes, I would have expected that. If COVID hadn't hit, we would have 1.3 in the bank right now. We would have been setting aside another 1.3 this year.
My question, we've got that reserves / projects. What's the projects?
There aren't any at this point.
Okay.
That's just a holding account.
Okay, thank you.
And with that being said, it would be my understanding, and I think Madam Administrator, if anything came forward, it would need to come from
It
this
would come
board.
here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Could spend it on raises.
I don't know, yeah.
All right, is there any further discussion on this for Amber? All right,
Oh, well,
go ahead, David.
no, I'll hold it to the next.
All right, very good. Thank you, Amber, appreciate it.
David, I think I know where you're going at least. You know, if the statutorily, we can only hold 3%, and we're looking at, we're showing 330,000 of a $9.6 million budget, there seems to be some overage, so we need to make sure that we have that correct.
Is that your?
That was exactly what I was
okay.
going to talk about.
Yep.
Is somebody want to address that?
Looks like we have somebody from the clerk's office.
Michael Davis. I'm the treasury manager, so I can discuss questions about the 3%.
Okay, well, it's not necessarily about the 3%, it's just that it's showing, so statutorily, we can't take more than 3.
Correct.
And 330,000 would be more than 3% of 9.6. So we just need to make sure that's accurately,
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
but I don't know if that's the only thing David had to discuss about that.
That's not all that I had.
I didn't think so.
That's one
For the
note. Check
agenda,
that
no.
one. All right. David,
Yeah, well, are we moving on to that?
we're moving on,
Okay.
unless there was any other questions. Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I wasn't sure, I didn't have, I wanted to put together some documents for this discussion of the 3%
Uh-huh.
admin fee, but I didn't have them together ahead of time to give.
Okay.
But I have them, and I have
Okay.
copies for everyone on this council, plus some extra copies
All
that,
right,
that we can put into the public record if anybody needs copies, but,
okay,
and I'll wait till they're passed out, so everybody has them, but,
all right.
thank you. Yeah, I have them.
There's your shirt.
Here's your shirt.
All right. Oh, thanks. You might have to take your mask off
Okay.
to understand.
I'll take it off if y'all promise not to give me
I'm
COVID.
not gonna.
Right.
I'm not.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the documents that just got passed out, on the front page is just sort of a index of what is included in here. I've included a copy of Visit Pensacola miscellaneous appropriation agreement, an affidavit that the clerk's office had requested be included, a copy of an email thread between the county and the clerk's office regarding the 3% and the affidavit. At some point, I'd spoken with Allison Rogers, county attorney, about the affidavit, and then was sent the email of that discussion so I could see the background conversation going on about the affidavit, and then I joined into the conversation. So that email exchange, actually, the first page of it is the last comments, so it goes backwards. And then there's, from our packet that we got today, the clerk's report is the cash reconciliation page, the adopted budget that we were just discussing, and the screenshots of the admin, some screenshots of the admin fees that were actually included from the clerk in the email exchange that I thought would blow up to make them easier to read. And then there's the Florida statute regarding the 3% fee and the county code regarding the 3% fee. So I want to start by talking about the affidavit. I received a phone call from Kimberly at Visit Pensacola, saying they'd received their affidavit, their miscellaneous appropriation agreement, and they were requested to turn it around quickly, but it included a brand-new page, which was this affidavit. And the affidavit, as you can see, requires 2 signatures by TDC members, representatives, certifying that all of the documents that Visit Pensacola was submitting to the clerk in the county regarding their expenditures, yes, ma'am, it's the second page is the first one I'm talking about, the affidavit. And it was requiring us to certify, 2 members on this board, to certify that all of those expenditures met the statute and the code of ordinances, that they were legal expenditures, because the statute, and that's explained in those emails, those 6 pages of emails following, and I'm sorry they're small, I just realized how small they were. But I called Allison Rogers and asked her what was going on, because this was new to me. As being a member of ACE's board, I'd been the president for about 8 years, and we had a appropriation agreements, and we never had this affidavit before. So I was asking what it is that TDC members needed to sign, and why we would be signing this. Number one, this board hasn't taken action to authorize us to sign this, and if 2 board members acted outside of the authorization of this and on behalf of the TDC, would we be violating, sunshine laws by operating outside the sunshine? And also that we're not board members of Visit Pensacola, and we shouldn't have to be certifying the documents that they're providing are accurate and meet the statute. I mean, we're not their board. That's their responsibility to ensure their compliance. And so she said that was the first that she had actually heard about it. One of her staff attorneys, Kristen Hewell, had put it together at the request, or had been provided it and included it at the request of the clerk's office. So the email exchange explains all that, and then we got into a little back and forth discussion about the 3% and how it's being used, or why she was including it. And the reason it was being included in that packet was because Madam Clerk did not believe that the TDC was actually reviewing these documents because of our recent questions that we were asking about information going on, that we as this board were not informed about what Visit Pensacola was doing and how they were spending their money. And then because there's turnover in the county leadership, there's turnover in leadership among this, or turnover among this board, and also at turnover at leadership of Visit Pensacola. She wanted to try to help find a way to ensure continuity and understanding of what the TDC's board's responsibility is. And she explains all that in these emails. And so I explained, I told her my opinion was that these board members, that we all believe, we're all informed about what Visit Pensacola is doing. They present it to us. They give us all their information. They put it in PowerPoint and present it at our meetings. They send it to us. Some of us, I don't know if everyone does, but I meet semi-regularly with Visit Pensacola, and we're informed of what they're doing and their activities. We don't go through every expense, every report, receipt, et cetera, but we're informed of their activities. But what we're not informed of is what these special projects are that are listed on a budget, what the 3% is used for by the clerk for the administration, who's paid for by that, and why we as a board would need to review every single receipt if the clerk's office is receiving 3% of all taxes collected, tourist development taxes collected, to administer the program. I felt like that is their obligation to review them for compliance, tell us they're in compliance, and certify to us, this board, that that all of those receipts, those expenditures were in compliance with the statute and ordinances. And then we just review what type of program they're doing. If we believe that is how this board sees what Visit Pensacola is doing, if we believe what they are doing is in the best interest of developing tourism for the county. That is this board's role, in my opinion, and what I read the statute to say. And so I wanted to provide that background on why that existed in those email exchange and that conversation. That affidavit ended up being pulled out of their agreement, and it was not provided. They corrected that. And then, so after you get beyond those emails and read those at your leisure, the cash reconciliation, it's the page that the clerk just, actually, I'm sorry, that OMB, that Ms. McClure just went through. And I circled the BCC indirect cost under the 1 through 3 and the 4, and that is the combination for fiscal year 2020. It's what has been spent so far. So 2021 they haven't spent any of that or retained it or showing it on this report. But they did collect and retain that 3%, and that's those numbers right there on that page. And then the next page is obviously it's the adopted budget fiscal year '21 that we just discussed, and I circled that, the 330 that Robert just addressed. So we do need to correct that. And in that exchange email, by the way, the clerk says that they do, they budget the 3% of what the budget is at the beginning of the year, but they don't go back and adjust that at the end of the year based on collections. And last year, they actually budgeted the 3% based on the $12.5 million or $12 million budget, and so they retained that 3%, but we only collected 10, and it didn't go back in and adjust it. So they retained more than the statute and the ordinance allows. And so I don't know how we reconcile that, but we need to ask the clerk how to do that.
I'd say Amber would be could help do that, or somebody from the clerk, but
I mean, Mike, you're welcome to help answer, but, so the clerk does return funds to us, and I'd be happy to let Mike respond to that, but they did return a considerable amount of funds back to the county at the end of the year. That constitution, it was over 700,000, but he can tell you the exact number.
Yeah. As you are right, it was based off.
it was to the county. So we would just need to make a journal entry that it was,
Yeah, we just,
that additional portion was
it
going
was
back into the
returned.
TDT.
and as for the 3% though, yeah, you're right, it was based on the budget and that how it needs to be. I know what you're referring to as the statute is referring to as collections. And I think that's where you were saying, and then, but if you looked at the prior year, our budget was much lower and actual was much higher, so we would have got even much smaller of a percentage. But you are right, based off the statute, it should be off.
Right. And the statute doesn't say 3%, it says no more than 3%. So if you budget less and you need less, then you can spend less. But if it says no more than 3 and you spend more than 3, then you violate statute. It's just improper. Right. So then the next page, which are these blurry screenshots, that's the audit ledger sheet that's in this big document that we got. Those are showing the 3% spend by the clerk for 2020, 19, and 18 in that order. But it's only listed as indirect cost. There is no detail to it if it paid salaries, whose salaries it paid, what benefits, et cetera. So Michael, if you want to address that, that'd be great.
Yes. So those are transfers out from the Fund 108 to the general fund. And I think that's what Pam was trying to say in her email, was that the general fund in general pays projects. It is for administrative fees. All of our indirect costs, not even just TDT, all indirect costs flow into the general fund, and then those pay out of the general fund pays for administrative costs, salaries, et cetera.
This goes to fund that the entire office, the clerk's
Yes.
office.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think he's trying to say it's not just the clerk's office, though. I mean, we have Zanani here who's doing our meetings. We have our attorney's office that may step in for certain things. So it's not just salaries and the clerk's office duties.
So how is that 3% spend being tracked? Because when Visit Pensacola or ACE or Pensacola Sports or any of the other organizations that are outside agencies spend a penny, it has to be accounted for with receipts and documentation. So is it being tracked in any way other than journal out, journal in?
And if not, certainly there's a way to set that up, I would think, right?
So I'm going to share something that we're doing. As you know, I've been here 90 days. One thing that we are doing is we're engaging a firm to provide us a cost allocation plan. Those of you that have worked in government before might be aware of what that is. It does exactly what you're asking for. But it doesn't just calculate what should we be charging to the TDT fund. It calculates what should we be charging to every single fund within the entire county, whether it's a customer-facing department or an internal-facing department. So for the services of my office, for the clerk's office, for the county attorney's office, HR, IT, all of those internal service functions will be included in this cost allocation plan, which will then calculate Oftentimes for the finance division, they'll look at, in the accounts payable department, how many invoices are they processing in a month for each of the divisions that they support. And then they'll calculate a cost to allocate to each of those divisions. That plan will be processed starting January and completed at the end of April so that it can be incorporated into the fiscal '22 budget year. At that time, we can give you more information, but until then, I don't have the answer.
Okay.
I mean, we'd have to dig
Yep.
to get you the
No, I
answer.
understand.
Any further discussion? David, do you have any?
Did you have something else?
Yeah, so what was the response on the Sunshine with this?
Well, we didn't do it. I mean, we just didn't, they removed that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way, it was going to be one of the 6 of you that was going to sign there, or 2 of the 6 of you, because that was going to be me. You know, I mean, so I wasn't going to sign that affidavit.
I know.
Shirley and I each got the email.
Right,
about it.
and so, I mean, that was the discussion, and I think that's ultimately why it was pulled. So it did not, the visit did not have to sign off on that.
Okay.
So I guess another question that I have is, it's out of concern of how the TDT is being spent. I know there's a lot of oversight over what is going on with the unified budget and the other outside agencies, but because we haven't been able to track how it's being spent internally, and you know, we talk about the 1.3 was going to be put into reserves, but then it was spent on projects, and now we have a line item in the budget that was approved as projects, but we haven't identified the projects. And it will come before this board now. I don't know that projects have done that in the past. So I'd really like to see an independent audit done of the tourist development tax, the entire program, for at least like the last 2 years, just to see if we're in compliance. I mean, because if we have the obligation as a board to review expenditures of revenue, then we need to know, we need to have some sort of baseline on what has been done, and so we know how to move forward with it.
Let me
It is
say,
audited by
real
Warren
quick,
Averett.
I'm sorry?
It's audited by Warren Averett every year.
Is
we
it
have one?
separately? Separate from the rest of the county, and how how the tourist development tax specifically is being spent on what projects, et cetera?
and real quick, David, if you look at the reason why we have some great relationships with Visit and with other partner agencies here is because oftentimes a best practice for a nonprofit is to do an external audit every year. Have somebody look and make sure that you're meeting those demands. And it's something that oftentimes government agencies just don't do. And that's not just here, it's across America. But yeah, I'd love to have this conversation some more.
I know that the county does an independent audit, and I've read it. It doesn't detail tourist development tax expenditures specifically. And that's what I'm talking about. I would like us to hire an independent auditor, use tourist development tax funds to pay for an auditor to go through all of the expenditures for the last 2 years, maybe even look at best practices and how other either regional counties are doing it, and see if we're doing it comparably, or regional or others around the state that are the same size as us, and in collections or geography, or population, however whatever this board wants to do, but maybe even use it as, have some notes in that audit as a comparison of how we spend our money versus other areas. But certainly, I'd love to have an independent review, or audit, not review, of all the expenditures.
Are we talking about just an open bid to all the, the providers that do that and return back a bid to us and say, hey, we'll do that? Is that what you're thinking, or not so much?
Well,
Or are you thinking about letting Janice's office take care of that vendor? Is that what you're?
yeah, well, I didn't think.
I mean, I don't know if that,
I thought about that for.
I hadn't thought that far.
I mean, I don't know if that's a process we want to get in on. I mean,
Right, we hire it ourselves, no.
I mean, I think you
No, but I
probably want
think
to work
maybe
it out
the
with the
chairman
clerk
can-
and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when there's audits, you have a management meeting with the auditors prior to it. And maybe the chairman of this board sits in that meeting with county staff or, the administration and clerk's administration. Because that way, this board has a representative, or, not necessarily a chairman, but somebody appointed by chairman or whatever.
Has this never been done? Have we never done this? I mean, I can't recall it
To my knowledge.
on my tenure. I can't remember us doing it.
Not to my knowledge.
I'll just, I mean, David, you alluded, my understanding is, at least since I've been on the board, any project that we have asked have TDT spent on, we did bring it back to the board. So I think we did it a couple times this calendar year, that we did bring it back to this board before approving it out of our board. So I can't say that's how it's always been done, but
So is there a motion on the floor?
I make the motion that we, as a board, approve, and I don't know how this works. Do we recommend to the BOCC to do it, or do we do it ourselves? So then we'll
gonna
do it
do it.
ourselves. So I make the motion that we do an RFP to engage, the county does an RFP to engage an accounting firm, an auditing firm, independent,
well,
to do an independent audit.
I'll second for discussion. I mean, do we want to throw it back towards the clerk? Because clearly they already have some relationships there that we don't have. I mean, which may be easier than having us go through that process. I mean, we don't have, who's procurement? I mean, it would probably take a lot longer also.
If the county did it?
No, if it was this board who was overseeing the process. I mean, unless we want to meet a couple times to do it.
Well, what I was recommending, because we don't have,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, love to hear.
When we have other programs audited, we typically reach out to Carr, Briggs and Ingram. They're a regional public accounting firm.
so do you guys do an RFP, or you just go directly to that sole source?
We just talk to them.
Now, what did he say?
Yeah, they're a
They
contract.
go to
They've got a contract for it. They're already under contract or something, right?
With what company?
Carr, Briggs and Ingram.
Carr, Riggs, and Ingram.
It's a CPA firm,
They're-
Located?
regional. It's Fort Walton.
Riggs?
Yeah,
Yeah. CRI?
yeah.
They do the audit for Pride.
The three biggest firms in this area are Carr, Briggs and Ingram, Salt Marsh, and Warren Averett.
So we, in your mind's eye, we could use them without bid, without,
So I'm not the clerk, but I am spending her money. If he has her on if they have them on contract, that's gonna be your quickest way to get something expedited.
Yeah.
I will tell you that an RFP, quite frankly, will take you, in our office,
90
6 to
days.
7 months, and I'm sorry to tell you that. But it's just it's the nature of our beast. And then we'd have to have a committee that would have to decide, which firm we choose. So if you're comfortable with their contract, I'm sure they could get you the contract so you could look and see, to make sure that they're eligible, but that's gonna be your quickest way to get an expedited review, I think,
Okay.
an independent audit.
I don't know that we're interested in quick. I think we're interested in right.
So,
But.
Well, and they're
but-
right.
Right,
so can
right.
we have a repeat of the motion?
Yeah, I'll try to respond.
David, my suggestion would be that either Zanani or the administrator or Wesley work with the clerk's staff to get something done. And then that way we can start working on it without delay of a meeting with this board or something like that.
Is that your motion?
I'm
Getting there?
not stealing your thunder.
That's fine, you can have
Not mine.
it. I don't need it.
All right. So is there a motion?
Sure, that'd be my motion, is that our staff with the TDC work with the clerk's office to have an audit. And what's your time frame? How many years back you want to go?
2 years?
3.
3 years?
3 years.
3 years.
And we
I'll second.
should have the chairman of this committee work with CRI.
And I'd say that the chairman or their designee, seeing, especially as we're getting ready to have an election here in a minute, so, but yeah, I'd
But
amend it.
whoever the chairman might be.
The chairman or the chairman's designee would be able to sit in, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion, further discussion? All right, all in favor of this audit, say yes.
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 Any nays? All right, it's passed. All right, thank you.
So that concludes everything I wanted to talk about in 3 cents.
Great. Thank you,
Thank-
David.
thank you.
You obviously did a lot of work on that, and it's appreciated. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want you to check my books. Visit Pensacola, Darren. You're good.
Good afternoon. Just want to give you a few bullet point updates. We've talked about some of it already. Basically, since the last time we met in September, we talked about a lot at that time about the unified budget. And as has been discussed, the unified budget received 60% of the estimated TDT collections for fiscal year 21, which is just under $6 million. But compared to where we just finished for our past fiscal year at $6.87 million, our budget this year will still be down 12.8% comparatively. We do, though, also expect to receive funds not spent at the end of this past fiscal year as directed by the Board of County Commissioners, and that amount will be roughly $542,000. So that is an additional amount that will be allocated upon a request, I'm assuming in the next few months. Additionally, also in September, the Board of County Commissioners approved the 5th cent, that to be implemented and beginning on April 1st, and those TDD receipts will be allocated to the unified budget for the first 12 months of collections. So depending on how those are collected and paid out, we may see April, May, and June actually received in the fiscal year as well, fiscal year 21. As a result of Hurricane Sally, which was mid-September, not on our radar screen at the time of our last meeting, it was important for us to try to find ways to communicate travel to Pensacola Beach with the disruption of the 3 Mile Bridge. And so we met with partners and local media, and in collaboration with Showcase, launched the 3milebridge.com website. If you haven't been to it, it's a great resource. We communicated this out to all of our partners to help spread the word of one place they could go to look at how travel to and from Pensacola Beach is being impacted. So it shows current travel times from the interstate, the Scenic Highway exit, as well as Pensacola Airport. It has a chart that shows hourly congestion, the busiest travel times. There's traffic cameras showing the I-10, and there's a great map of the area showing how the detour routes and with directions. So, and you can get to it either with the number 3 or spelling 3 out. So 3milebridge.com. In November, Visit Pensacola held our annual meeting. And during that time, we have new board members and transition our officers. So our board chair, Sterling Gilliam, moves into past chair, and the vice chair moved up to the new board chairman. That's DC Reeves with Perfect Plain Brewing Company. And our new vice chair is Mackenzie Vaughn with Southern Vacation Rentals. Our new board members are David Kemp, who represents Pensacola FC Football Club and the Gulf Coast Texans. And that's represented in the sports category. And in attractions, we have Deandra Holcomb, who's the owner of HO2 Dolphin Tours, Pontoons, and more. Updates on a few programs. We're meeting weekly in regards to the Sunbelt Conference basketball tournament. And I think I'll let Ray Palmer talk a little bit more about that. But tickets are on sale, have been on sale now, and for the event that's scheduled March 5th through the 8th. Our focus is trying to get as many people from those respective teams to come and visit for the tournament and make it part of their spring break travel plans. I also mentioned last time about the Downs and St. Germain study. We did focus groups at the end of September, beginning of October. We have that information in. We're also compiling local feedback on this unique emotional positioning study. So we're asking our own residents and stakeholders to answer very similar questions and compare the two. So if you receive an email or have received an email and haven't taken an opportunity to do that, we're sending that out again. We're looking for our own resident feedback about the words and emotions that associate here with the Pensacola area. Our goal is then to release that in a public presentation in January. Also just launched this week, something that we continue to do to try to engage our own residents as well as visitors to get out and explore through our app, the Experience Pensacola app. It's the Pensacola Holiday Trail. We're really showcasing all the things you can do associated with the holidays, encouraging our residents to get out. It's a $1,000 contest, and you earn entries by going out and experiencing things along the trail. So we've had 4,300 downloads of the app to date, and we continue to try to make that a tool that visitors and residents can use to explore the area. I do want to talk just a little bit about trends regarding market performance. We are certainly still dealing with the fact that we have closed hotel properties, we have properties with reduced inventory. The 3 Mile Bridge closure has had a tremendous serious ramifications on Gulf Breeze and Pensacola Beach. Even Perdido Key condos, which were impacted, many of those were shut down through the end of November. Some will be shut down through the end of December. We have properties that will be coming back online by the end of the year, but also into January and February. There's one property in the beach that may be torn down completely and they have to be rebuilt. Inland hotels, certainly, according to our Smith Travel research reports, are doing much better than our beach properties, and I'd love to share those numbers with you, but Smith Travel didn't take into consideration that we had the hurricane and we had the closed hotels and reduced inventory. So we've contacted them that they have to rerun the numbers with less inventory because the revenue numbers are off. So as soon as those revised numbers come in, we'll be sending that out.
Darren, I just point out the revenue that the clerk showed was accurate.
Absolutely. So, and of course, we were up both in the months of September and October, and that certainly was impacted by Hurricane Sally and the remediation teams. And certainly they've been in market for a while, and there's still some in market. You see the trucks everywhere. So, but we'll see less of an impact from that in the month of November, where we're still certainly not seeing the amount of traffic on the Interstate 10 passing our door. That includes a lot of transient stops. Hopefully that'll come back. I think a lot of people are looking at February into March as a time when we hopefully recover more fully from the impact of the coronavirus. And finally, we're very fortunate and grateful to receive $500,000 in CARES Act funding from Escambia County to promote safe and healthy travel to and throughout Escambia County. Our campaign called Coastal Distancing was developed, including all new assets, videos, and pictures, which allowed us to create TV campaigns to run in a 500-mile drive market. I'm going to turn this over to Showcase to fill you in on the details of that campaign.
Real quick, Darren, before you get out real quick. So I spent a lot of my time looking at analytics of a lot of different things. How are the digital footprints doing a visit just generally? Maybe your website, your Facebook. I mean, how are you having traffic to it? Let's talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
To me. Thank you.
And again, it's in here? Okay. We've seen certainly growth in September, certainly impacted. There was a lot of inquiries, a lot of people using social media to find out what's going on in the destination due to Hurricane Sally. So we saw a big spike in September, came back down in October. And partially that is we had less of a marketing spend. October, again, we have to balance visitor sentiment to travel, how comfortable they feel. We also have to balance our residents' sentiment towards visitors, and then balance that with the needs of our business partners in the community at large. So it's a bit of a balancing act. So at times we've had to stop completely our marketing efforts, yet once again because of Sally. And so from mid-September into October, we had less of a spend, certainly TV spend. We held our dollars just because of the political campaigns and the price of things. So a lot of our marketing for the CARES Act was really now in November and December. And
Hey.
we have a few slides on that.
Hey, Darren, real quick, on the 6.8, did that include the 500,000 that we gave from reserves?
For this fiscal year?
No, for last fiscal year.
Yes, it did.
Okay. Most of it.
But
Yeah.
because we didn't spend a lot of it, because what happened in September,
Right.
and because of the
So
timing of it,
I guess, was the 6.8 a budget or an actual spend?
it was a budget.
It was the budget, okay.
Yeah.
Because we still get to carry, I mean.
And that's why we have that carryover amount
Yeah,
that's as
yeah, you
large
guys
as
carried
it
it,
is.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
perfect, just check.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dick Appleyard, representing Ellis and a number of other ad agencies that work on Showcase. I'd like to begin by saying what's happening right now for tourism in our community is a result of what this board did at previous meetings with Robert's leadership and others, many of you participating. We started and stopped our advertising in 2020 7 different times. Start, stop, start, stop. And at the end of the day, what saved what we're doing right now is we got an extra allocation of $500,000 from the county to get us back going again. And then you all brought to the fore a CARES Act contribution, which you asked for the county to vote and give us CARES Act money. So far this year, as Darren said, we did very little television advertising, particularly CARES Act, until the presidential election was over because the price of advertising in the markets we wanted to go was so high.
Sorry.
So we stopped and kept our powder dry until that was over, and now we embark on the CARES Act. And so what we call our first quarter, what the calendar calls its fourth quarter, is primarily covered by the efforts in this room of getting us additional dollars to get us, and so you talk about the $500,000, what we had spent about a third of that, but we had about $125,000 left that we are spending now that was approved by the clerk and Janice. We asked them all, make sure we can spend it after the end of the year. So that's where we are right now. I'm here really to talk about, but I wanted to thank you first. You never know, and some people may get whatever. David brings up some outstanding things about the budget, and your involvement in the budget process and where the money is being spent is critical to the tourism community, to the hoteliers in this room, the restaurants, whatever. Those dollars are meant to drive business to our community, and if they're not, it hurts them, it hurts us, and I appreciate your doing what you're doing and digging into the numbers. I do appreciate it. So real quickly, I'll go through kind of what we went through. This is primarily the CARES Act, and so you understand, in the CARES Act, we spent almost all the money on television in key markets, and the additional money that we had in our budget, we spent on the digital side of things. So here's the update that we have. It begins with, it's all about promoting safe travel, combining our natural resources with the county's recommendations on prevention and masking. So we kept that in mind as we were developing these ads. The markets in TV, we were running in Atlanta, Birmingham, Dallas, Houston, Jackson, Nashville, New Orleans, and Tallahassee. All are considered our drive markets. Maybe Dallas should be considered a drive market now as the travel patterns change, but they're all our key markets, and that's where we ran both the digital and social and the television. The run date started 1 week after the election on the 10th, and they go through the last day of December. I will make a point so that the county people won't be worried. All of the invoices from the TV stations, et cetera, are in so that we can meet the guidelines.
I heard you guys are good. You guys are good.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got our money in because we might want more. Anyhow, this is what the digital ads look like. And I'm not sure if I've got audio. I hope I do. Anyhow, neat. Our team came up with the campaign theme. We had competition amongst our ad agencies, and we had 4 different campaigns to consider, and this is what the winning Actually, the winning campaign was kind of a combination of them. All right? And if this audio doesn't work, it'd be quite a shame. This is the TV that has been running, and I don't hear it.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it is beautiful.
Anyhow, at the end of the day, if you look at the theme, it's primarily music and not a bunch of copy. The whole bottom line of it is, we're a great place to come and visit. One thing I'll tell you, the research that we've done, that Darren referred to, if you go out of town, what is the highlight? What do you have to focus on? The beach is the game. Now, people can stay at a lot of different places, but the beach is the major draw. And you go to our website and you see all the different things that you can do in Pensacola that differentiates us. But that's the deal. So this is the traffic you talked about right here. We built our own landing page about coastal distancing. Had pretty good users, number of pages per session. You can see what the landing page looked like, and it increased the overall website. And the social media reached almost 330,000. Link clicks, 21,000. Post engagements, 1,075. At the end of the day, keep in mind, this is what ran in November, and the budget just started on the 10th. So what you're seeing are preliminary results of what we have done on that. So hopefully that little quick run through shows you, I'm sorry you couldn't hear it, but we are really proud of what we did and how we used the mandates, or the suggestions, I guess is what it is, about masking and what have you, how we used that and turned it into a positive and used it to attract people here. I think we'll see results from it as we go on. And I would tell you, you're the group that does it. Obviously, we're working with a smaller budget this year. I've been working with ACE and with Pensacola Sports to, if it's possible, to submit a request for CARES Act money that helps both the arts and helps in similar type of marketing, but helps the arts, helps sports with some of the big things they've got coming up, and helps Visit Pensacola a little bit. So it'll be divided up. But if you were willing to, we would like to bring that to you. But Dennis, it may not be a possibility. I don't know how that all works. And I don't think Darren knew I was going to say it here.
I think all of our expenditures were due. They're due. So I don't know if we have any more.
But that's only a fraction of the overall CARES Act that you have.
We had to spend all 52 million by the end of the year.
Really?
So
There you go.
Yeah.
Then you better hurry and distribute it.
I think we've already submitted all of our receipts.
Okay.
And that's why we pushed it so hard to get everybody done. But we don't know what the next year holds, the next administration, on if there's another round or anything like that. But I think if that's the case,
Well, if nothing else, let me just tell you, it really helped tourism. And this has been really great for tourism. And there are other needs out there that could use similar type funding, the arts and sports and Visit Pensacola. So if somebody found something sitting around, that would be great. But don't want to mess with the budget we have, just an idea, because I think the messaging is important for us to get out there and to help the hoteliers and the restaurants all around town.
and I think we've had some discussions with at least Ray in trying to allocate some of those funds.
Okay. Sorry, it wasn't on my list, but I don't know who comes next, so I'm done with my part.
Is there any questions for Dick? All right, thank you, Dick, appreciate it.
Good job.
Yeah, I tell you what, we do have a presentation on the 3 Mile Bridge, but we're going to ask Ray Palmer, and since this kind of falls right in with tourism stuff, Ray, and is there ACE, some updates from the other agencies?
Do you want to give me a budget and time? Because once I get started, I can be be troublesome. So y'all get our quarterly reports.
The
So
longer you stay, the less you get.
Thank you very much. I can be efficient, I won't talk numbers. So I'll just talk real quickly about a couple of things. Obviously, they've talked both. Michael and the Bay Center is doing a great job. The facility is going to be spectacular if every little bit of snippet I've been able to get, but they've been very restrictive on who they're letting see that stuff. But it's going to be exciting. The building is going to be, I think it's a complete change. Darren touched on. We are full bore on planning Fan Fest and experiences. One of the things I didn't hear Darren shared, but they found out, I think last week, that we didn't know about, that I think is very exciting, is one of the institutions is already planning, I think it's Louisiana Lafayette? Louisiana, so Nicole, I'm stealing your thunder. Because I'm excited about it. Louisiana Lafayette is planning, they have an entire coastal alumni association that they are planning an activity around the championships this year. So we are going to use that as a springboard to reach the other 12 institutions to encourage them to do something similarly. In this day and age, that is huge because we're all very concerned about, is this year going to turn out like the numbers that we had anticipated? Probably not, but if we can get some of that, the backflow will be great. I will pour a little water on your parade. Shirley, I went over 2 Sundays ago and looked at the Sun Belt Conference Volleyball Championship. Until we build a venue, we're not getting that. It will stay in our region. They're very happy to have it in our region, but we just don't have the venue. We've got a couple of items right now, actually opportunities on board that would really work if we had a 50 or 75 or 100,000 square foot flat space floor, but we don't yet. So maybe someday in the near future or in the future we can have one. And when we do, Sunbelt, I know, will be happy to look at us. I had a most interesting phone call from a longtime friend of yours, I suspect, Shirley. Jose Rodriguez called me just a few minutes ago. He and a partner have purchased the rights, I didn't even know we could do this, to the United States Olympic Qualifier Baseball next June, and they would like Pensacola to be a potential part of it. So I've reached out. They need 2 stadiums. I've reached out to Mobile, and literally this was 2 hours ago. So I don't have a lot of details, but they'd like to talk to us for hosting an international with Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba. When you start talking about major baseball world international, there are no bigger countries than those, Canada. So we will start reaching out, and I don't know where it's going to end. The competition is going to be very stiff, but Jose reached out to us and said, Ray, I'd like to at least see if you guys could do it. Again, I immediately called my counterpart in Mobile. He said, we're in, we'd like to be in the conversation. So we'll learn about that, maybe have some exciting news about that. Again, I could go on. Double Bridge Run is setting records for entrance we're going to do run, swim, no, not really. We're going to do just a run starting at the beach, come off the beach, touch at some point part of the broken bridge. Skanska's been very worked with us well. They're going to let us touch a part of the bridge. We don't know how far yet, and then go back. Jason at Innisfree and Katie at Innisfree and some of the beach businesses are working on making a major weekend of Double Bridge Run. Those businesses out there need our help, and we have a cool run, and that will be a component. So I don't know if there's going to ultimately be an ask back here for some support about a potential music festival they're trying to get together. Maybe the Island Authority can come up with some money because they didn't put on Blue Angels. They've not put on, so if we got some leverage maybe there, they've not put on bands on the beach. So we're trying to build an event for the weekend, and I think part of what Dickie may be looking at also is maybe some CARES money to promote that event to really make an impact on the businesses on the beach. Again, I could talk forever. If you got any questions, call me and I will talk your ear off there.
That's great. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Is there anyone here from ACE or the Naval Museum or the UWF Historic Trust? Great. All right. All right. Next, we have Iris Waters, who is on a Teams meeting, and patiently waiting, yes. She is the manager with the Florida Department of Transportation, District 3. Ms. Waters is a registered professional engineer who received a degree in civil engineering from Florida State University in 2012. She has worked for the Florida Department of Transportation for 7 years and been a registered professional engineer in the state of Florida since 2016. Ms. Waters is our guest today and will be sharing information and updates on the Pensacola Bay Bridge Repair Program that is currently underway. Ms. Waters, thank you for bearing with us and being here today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here virtually. Oh, so I can hear feet. Before I mute my speakers, let me share so that you can see my screen. Is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you for the opportunity to provide an update about the progress in repairing the damaged Pensacola Bay Bridge. My name is Iris Waters, and I'm the Project Development Manager for the FDOT District 3. A multidisciplinary team of engineers and construction professionals are working to make the necessary repairs. Reopening the Pensacola Bay Bridge to protect is the department's #1 priority. As demolition and repair efforts continue on the Pensacola Bay Bridge, the department is committed to providing complete transparency and community assistance. FDOT has developed an outreach team to coordinate with stakeholder groups and civic organizations the way that I am here today. We also are continuing to meet with state and local state and local officials to keep them informed of bridge repair efforts. The FDOT has received many questions surrounding the different roles of the project, so I wanted to take just a moment and explain the key players. FDOT is the owner and administrator of the Pensacola Bay Bridge Replacement Project. In 2016, the department used the established procurement process to award the design and construction contract to Skanska USA. As a design-build contractor, Skanska is responsible for the design and construction activities required to replace the Pensacola Bay Bridge. Skanska has hired a team of specialty subconsultants to assist in constructing the bridge and the repair work. FDOT has also selected a construction engineering and inspection CEI team led by Osmond and Russo to monitor and inspect all design and construction work and ensure it is consistent with all applicable criteria and specifications. Community outreach is coordinated through an Osmond and Russo subconsultant team consisting of ABC Group and EPR. The group is responsible for coordinating meetings such as today, development and distribution of newsletters, and social media posts. On the next slide, I have a short video that shows some of the work that's on the 3 Mile Bridge. These videos can be seen on our website and also through social media. Because it is such a long bridge, it's hard to see some of the work that they're conducting sometimes. So we are putting out these videos on a routine basis to ensure that people can see the actual work that's happening. Oh, hold on. Okay. FDOT anticipates repairs will be complete in March of 2021. The goal is to open the bridge to 4 lanes of traffic with no weight restrictions. FDOT is corresponding with Skanska daily to hold the company accountable for meeting the milestones noted in the schedule. The schedule's been broken down into categories, and much of the work will be overlapping or happening simultaneously. The 4 primary categories that you can see here are repair, inspection, and repair plan, demolition, repair construction, and precast of the bridge components. We are updating this schedule on a weekly basis and providing status updates to both state and local officials and on our website. The purpose of this graphic is to be able to track the different spans that require full replacement so that you can see the project is happening, the progress is happening, and we can provide a weekly update of this graphic. 6 graphic spans sustained enough damage that they must be replaced. Demolition work is nearing completion on 4 of these spans, 16, 37, 69, 92. The next steps for these spans will be replacing the concrete beams, then pouring the new concrete bridge decks. Demolition is about 50% complete for span 15, while work is getting underway at span 36. Demolishing damaged sections of the bridge is a delicate process. Thousands of tons of steel reinforced concrete must be removed in a manner that supports worker safety while minimizing the potential for additional damage to the bridge. Work is underway for the permanent repairs. The team is committed to preserving the full 75-year design life of the bridge, so there will be no diminished level of service once the bridge is repaired. Repairing the bridge will require significant manpower and equipment. Skanska has brought in 2 additional bridge contractors to repair the bridge while they continue work on the westbound side. Additional personnel and equipment have been added to ensure that the 6-month schedule is met. Currently, crews are working 7 days a week around the clock to complete these repairs. While the bridge is closed, drivers may use the following detour routes: State Road 281 and Garcon Point Bridge, and tolls on the Garcon Point Bridge have been suspended through 6 a.m. Sunday, December the 13th. There's also State Road 87. FDOT has been working to improve the traffic flow along the detour routes. Those improvements include new temporary traffic signals at I-10 off-ramps to State Road 281, free-flow turn lanes on and off the interstate at State Road 281. We've adjusted signal timing along the detour route, installed additional temporary traffic cameras to allow commuters to view traffic conditions in real time using Florida511.com. Road Ranger services that were previously patrolling the Pensacola Bay Bridge have been relocated to the Garcon Point Bridge. This allows tow trucks to be available to assist in clearing incidents and disabled vehicles to keep traffic moving. Additional improvements that are currently being developed include a temporary widening of about 2,000 feet north and southbound State Road 281, south of the I-10 interstate, and developing plans to temporarily widen the eastbound I-10 off-ramp to State Road 281 southbound to 2 lanes. We're continuously looking for ways to improve the detour route and make it as easy to travel as possible. FDOT has partnered with the Escambia County Area Transit to establish a free bus service between Pensacola and Gulf Breeze. 7 pickup and drop-off locations have been established. Additional details, including bus times and schedules, are available at www.goecap.com. A total of 27 barges escaped their moorings during the storm. 26 of the 27 barges have been recovered at this time. Skanska USA has dispatched a community outreach team to our area, along with insurance claims specialists to assist property owners. Any who were impacted by the Skanska barges or other equipment during Hurricane Sally may contact the contractor using the email address on the screen. For boaters, please be aware that U.S. Coast Guard has established a 500-yard buffer zone around all Pensacola Bay Bridge construction activities. Vessels may use only low or idle speeds within the buffer zone. There have been reports of sightseeing activities hindering the inspection and demolition work. Marine traffic should maintain a 500-yard buffer zone. In addition, due to the potential for underwater hazards, boaters are advised to use caution near the bridge. The navigational channel has been inspected and is free of hazards. For this reason, crossing beneath the bridge should only be done in the navigational channel. We understand the magnitude of the problem facing your communities. Regular updates regarding bridge repair and recovery activities can be found online at fdot.gov/Pensacola Bay. You can also subscribe to regular email updates by providing your email address on this website. Information is also available on the FDOT District 3 and Pensacola Bay Bridge social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have any questions, you can contact the FDOT team anytime using the email address info@PensacolaBayBridge.com. At this time, we're going to open it up for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
I'll ask a quick question. Iris, when do we expect the piles to start being driven? I know you have the dashboard. That looks great on that. Yeah, that right there looks great. But I just know that's what a lot of people are looking forward to seeing.
So it shows here that they've already started this effort. I can check back and see currently what the construction underway, what's happening with that, and provide y'all an answer back. But it looks like that should be occurring anytime now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Iris, thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation and the update.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business is that since we are at the end of the year for election of the TDC chair and the vice chair. I currently serve as chair and David Baer is vice chair. Are there any nominations for chair and vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Tish Patel
Or chair.
for chair.
Okay. Do you have a nomination? We'll do them one at a time then.
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Madam Chairman.
I also have a nomination, which I understand I can do for David Baer since he has been co-chair for the past 2 years.
I'll second.
Okay.
And that was going to be my
Just to talk.
question. Yeah, if David had any interest in that, as I mean, typically it would rotate down to the vice chair. I know it would still take a vote, but okay, David's interested. Okay.
Okay.
We're going to do them in paper like we did last time? or
Yes.
how do you want to do 'em?
Zanani, did you have the paper? Oh, it is?
Oh.
In the front pocket is a little 3x5 sheet of paper.
Let's just all put our own names down.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Ronnie for vice chairman.
Okay. So we have we have two chairs, Mr. Patel and Mr. Baer as nominations for chair, and then we have a vice chair nomination.
No, but let's deal with the chair nomination before we get into it.
Okay. All right, are there any other nominations for chair? All right, if you would put your,
I got one. Hold on, maybe. I got it. We'll see.
Right in there, yes, it did.
all right.
Front.
Connie, if you'll pass them down, your votes. And this is for the chair.
This is for chair.
Chair. Can you sign it? There you go. No, I'll do it.
Oh,
They're gonna
just
pass them
We'll
down.
pass them, sure.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Good.
Thanks.
Shame you didn't retain half yours to vote for vice chair.
Right.
All right, here's some chairs. You count them. Yeah, you count them. All right. Oh, wait, we got one more. Mr. Reeves.
Is this for vice?
This is for vice chair.
Vice chair.
Oh, I tore mine in half. I didn't know we were going to get another one. Thank you.
Okay. Zanani, there you go, dear. All right, if you will tell us the status. It appears Mr. Bear will be our chairman. Now we'll take if y'all want to know it was 5-2. Okay. We will now take nominations for co-chair.
I'd like to nominate Ronnie Rivera.
Okay. We have a nomination. Any other? Okay, and we have Tish Patel. Anyone else? All right. Then if you'll mark your votes. Is it on here? If you'll collect, here's some. There you go. And we got some more here. I think they passed theirs down.
We passed ours down.
We got these. They should. You're right. She's finding, getting, well, I know, I mean, there's sand volleyball tournaments. Yeah. That is a good idea.
They've been playing all summer. It's the suites next door to us. I'm living next door to a haunted hotel. Somebody should write a story about it, but I can't stay focused.
All right. And we have, all right, we have 4-3, and Ronnie Rivera, you will be our next co-chair.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before this group? If not, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Perfect. Bye, Mr. Reeves.
Shirley, I just real quick want to thank you for your chairmanship the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Sorry,
that.
sorry.
I know, that's all right. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, y'all are well. What was I going to say? All right.